Welcome back. Now, government has, for the first time since the recession of 2008, collected less VAT. Now, experts believe the revenue collection target of 1.4 trillion rand may have to be reduced during next month's medium-term budget policy statement. Carl Mendy is a partner and technical head of tax at PricewaterhouseCoopers South Africa. Now, he believes Finance Minister Tito Mboweni is under pressure to come up with a turnaround plan and as VAT collections dip. Well, Mendy is my guest in studio this morning. Mr. Mendy, thank you very much for your time. So how pressured is Tito Mboweni given that the VAT collection is now down, yet you had an increase of that 1% last year to bring up VAT to 15%?
Yeah, there's no question that tax revenues are, as a general proposition, are under pressure. The VAT issue is a little bit more nuanced. So yes, it is behind the collections at the same time last year, but there's a very simple reason for that, and that relates to the VAT refunds. So the same period in 2018 where the refunds were lower than what would normally be expected. This year, they've normalised, and the backlog in VAT refunds is now being cleared. And that's the reason why, when you look at it on a very net basis, that the VAT revenue collections are behind last year's collections at this point in time. But we do expect that that will normalise as the year continues.
How much of a shortfall, therefore, is the Finance Minister going to announce next month? There is this talk that between 30 billion or 50 billion will be the shortfall from that target of 1.4 trillion.
So that's in line with our expectations, which range from 32 to 45 billion rand. So that's what we're expecting that the forecast will be revised downwards by come the mini budget.
How realistic are these figures?
It's quite difficult at this time of the year. We've only got 4 months worth of data. We'll have a much better idea once we have 6 months worth of data, which will only be expected at the end of October, so around the time the mini budget is actually going to be presented. So forecasting at this point is actually quite difficult, and hence the pretty wide ranges that we're actually giving. But definitely a minimum of 30 billion rand, but as I say, we expect up to 45 billion rand. The real challenging number is actually the corporate tax number, where there are a lot more uncertainties around that number.
Why is that?
Well, corporate taxes have been performing very badly up to this point in the year. One of the reasons why it's difficult to actually predict those is that corporate taxes are collected in at very particular times of the year. So we've only had one big month so far, which was March. Then the next big months are only for the numbers end of August and end of September. So once we have those figures, we'll have a much better idea in terms of how corporate taxes are performing, but they're not looking good at this point in time.
You mentioned that the Finance Minister is particularly under pressure to try and come up with a turnaround plan. Now, we know that there is a turnaround strategy document that he has tabled before his colleagues in cabinet. That is under discussion now. How important is it, or perhaps let me first get your sense of that document, the content of that 74-page or 77-page document. How good or bad is it?
Well, it's a very good start. Let's put it that way. There's a lot more that needs to be done, but if we can just start implementing some of those, or most of those things in that document, it will go a long way towards restoring confidence and reigniting growth. And I think that's the most important thing. The bottom line is, from a fiscal point of view, there is nowhere left to raise significant further tax revenues at all. So the only things left are to reignite growth and look at cutting expenditure. That's all there is to do, I'm afraid.
And that strategy document is the panacea, you believe?
I don't think it's the panacea. As I said, at this point in time, it's a piece of paper. What is required is that we actually start implementing many of those things and start undertaking those reforms that are desperately required to get growth going.
Carl Mendy, thank you very much for giving us your thoughts here on the South African Morning. He is a partner and technical head of tax at PricewaterhouseCoopers South Africa.